One of the things that concerns me with opening the meeting to anything, we're gonna be discussing anything. And what's really important, we've just heard from Karen and from us, actually, that the finance committee, for example, is really important. And I wanna make sure that we have the various committees, the various working groups, that people understand that we want to hear from the community within the committee structure or working group structure, or whatever you want to call it, commission structure, whatever you want to call it. But I want people to say, we need this committee, we need that committee, here's what this committee should do, here's what this committee should do. That's what I want to hear first. We can have another town hall meeting, you know, whenever, to discuss other things. Or we could try to do it at the end of the meeting and say, it's scheduled for 2 hours, we can have an hour and a half of trying to put committees together in terms of references together. And then use the last half hour for people to speak their mind on whatever topic they want to speak about. But the important thing is to get something done with respect to the committees. And that's all. I'm not precluding anybody from talking about other things, but just not, you know, it's so important that we get some of these committees going, that if we open it up to whatever you want to talk about, you know, and I'm not putting down people about the smart meter thing, and we're gonna talk about that a little bit later, but, you know, I don't want those issues to hijack the issue which is really important to us, which is the committees.
That's right.
Okay. Anybody else? Kim?
Yeah, I'm not sure how far we'll get in terms of reference in that style of meeting, but perhaps out of that meeting can come another meeting, a public meeting that will allow us to workshop those issues.
Yeah, and we'll get the feedback of what people expect council to do with their committees and with the advisory positions of the committees. And that's all I'm concerned with. I mean, we have to take small steps. This is a small step, but we're moving forward. Did you want to say something? What?
For me, the term town hall meeting somehow implies that council talks to the town, or listens to the town. And we have had an election, and we all had election platforms. It would be now, in my opinion, very helpful to see how people respond. And I want to get a sense for their priorities. And they may be different than what we perceive, but at least I want to be not mistaken in just believing that such and such is top priority when actually the concerns we hear is different. And I had hoped that during that discussion we will get a sense for where people see priorities, and out of those priorities we will come probably to a conclusion what committees are necessary. So if we hear overwhelmingly that finances are a concern, well then obviously the most highest priority is finances, advisory committee. If we hear that infrastructure or the recreation or the community center or the ferry marshalling are major, well then maybe our focus has to shift. And I want to make that very clear that our intent, at least is a shared intent, that we are more responsive rather than following our own agendas to actually execute what people want. So in order to find out what people really want is to listen, and that can be sometimes painful because not every opinion is most generously focused and well articulated, but we get a sense. So now my concern about the 14th is that we have more people than this room can handle.
Yeah.
That's the concern, but it may be a concern which is better than sitting as the kids at chapel and 6 people show up. So we are doomed if we don't.
That's why limiting it, in my opinion, is good. We can throw it open for a half an hour, but as long as we get the committee structure set up so that we can move forward on the various things, and we know what people are interested in. They're interested in our strategic planning, they're interested in GDRD, they're interested in the Islands Trust, they're interested in acquiring land for Stunk Cove, they're interested in the ferries, we've heard that already. They're interested in smart meters, they're interested in fire departments, so on and so forth. These are things that are of importance to the island. And we know that, but the thing is we have to get going. And in order to get going, we have to have some sort of a guide or guidelines to get to where we want to go. For example, we haven't really discussed the strategic plan yet, and I thought that was a really important topic for us to discuss today. But with the budget and with the various other things that have come forward, it's really getting hard to deal with things in an orderly fashion. So I say that we keep the next Saturday's town hall meeting, keep it on the committee structure, and if there is time left over, then we can deal with it. We can deal with a half an hour or whatever have you of people making comments on things they'd like to see council deal with. But it has, I want people to sort of understand that we have to be realistic. We can't, we simply cannot do all the things that are expected of us. And we can't do it. We just heard about the possibility of a tax increase. I mean, that to me is incredibly scary. And I want to, I want the people on the island to know that we're looking out for everybody on the island. This isn't about different groups on the island. This is for everybody. And I want everybody's help. We're a new council, basically. We've got 2 people who are on other councils. But we're basically a new group. We need help, and we expect to get help from the people on the island that put us here. So that's what I want to see out of it next Saturday.
Yeah, I don't think the two are necessarily mutually exclusive. Most of the things that Wolfgang mentioned would involve committees anyway, so.
So then, how can we make clear that the purpose on Saturday is to hopefully see volunteers coming forward?
Volunteers?
Well, to serve on the committee.
Yes.
Because for us to learn what we are asked to do is one thing, but the other, if it's really meant to be in light of the committees we want to strike, then the emphasis should be, we want to hear from you, especially those who are willing to serve. So will we have enough time to let the message go out?
Well, I think so. People know that there's this meeting. So as long as people don't expect too much, I mean, this is supposed to be a conversation on next Saturday. So let's have this conversation. And let people tell us what they want, but limit it only to the committees, to working groups, or whatever you want to call them. And maybe, as I say, I agree with Crow that we should have, we should listen to the other concerns, but in order to get moving, we need to have these things in place.
We can put a more fulsome ad in this Friday's paper, as well as we can post it on our website and email to our distribution list in some form, now that we've received more feedback from council on the format. We can do an agenda. What I'm hearing is an agenda for Saturday will include an hour and a half of discussing committee structure and half an hour of a more open format, do it in that way. We can also include our existing committee, packages with our existing committees, and their terms of reference or establishment bylaws, just as a kind of starting point for discussion on Saturday. And we'll have copies of that available to the public as well, so they'll have that. And we can have that ready in advance of the meeting, so if people wish to pick up copies, they can.
Or off the website,
Yeah, absolutely,
advertise
yeah,
on the
we'll,
forum, et cetera.
yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
I think there's one committee missing off that list,
Oh,
which was the one that Christine was going to reestablish of the Advisory Community Services Committee,
That's correct, yes.
which we were calling the Parks and Rec Commission because of a whole bunch of process issues.
That hasn't as yet been approved by council, but it is something.
Community Services Advisory, so, you know, what kind of recreation services do you want, what kind of facilities do seniors need, what kind of, that sort of.
I think Christine has done a lot of work on a draft terms of reference for that committee, so it is something we can add to the package for Saturday as well. Just gives more information to all the public.
Do you have to do anything?
No, I think we got enough feedback to prepare
Yeah, that's enough.
for Saturday.
Okay.
Our next item of business is our chief financial officer regarding the revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw.
Thank you. It's pretty routine. It allows us to borrow money if we need to borrow money in the early part of the year. As you can imagine, revenue doesn't come in until about end of May, end of June, for July 1st when people start paying their property taxes, but we still need to pay our payroll and our accounts payable. And so to allow us, if we don't have enough cash to get us to July 1st, we can borrow from Municipal Finance Authority when I have this borrowing bylaw in place. The way this is set up is that we can only borrow up to 75% of last year's taxes, and we must pay it back on July, I guess the first business day after July 1st, as soon as taxes are collected. So it's not meant to be borrowing for infrastructure or anything like that, it's borrowing to pay your day-to-day expenses. So it's like a line of credit to have it in place on standby in case we need it, and we must pay it back once we collect taxes. So to get it in place, I've prepared a bylaw and as well a demand promissory note. So I need a motion from council as in the agenda package.
So do you need that first one in pursuant to community charter?
Yeah.
You need that as well?
Yes, the wording is standard wording of the
Okay.
community charter.
So are you gonna read it? Do you wanna read it, or?
We can get a motion on the table and council can,
So, the motion needs to be moved,
that's right.
I so move.
Second?
You're moving the reading.
The first part.
As the first part.
I'll read it out loud. Pursuant to Community Charter, Section 177, that Bowen Island Municipality Revenue Anticipation Borrowing Bylaw, number 313/2012, be read a first, second, and third time. And we have a mover and seconder.
Question?
No, do we have a discussion?
That's what I'm asking, that's what
Okay.
I'm asking. Do you wanna discuss it?
Yes. Is that standard tax used by other municipalities, or is that our creation?
Oh, no, the text is actually given to me by Municipal Finance Authority. They say this is how you need to word it. So it's standard text.
What concerns me, and I remember last year when we barely made, I think, the payroll on June, I remember you weren't pleased about that. So I can't see the need for that, because not all taxes come in time, and it has to be. What concerns me here is that we have basically 75% of the complete tax, and you say it will be repaid immediately as the money comes in. There's no wording in here which makes that mandatory or even indicates that.
Oh, that it must be paid?
Yes.
In the bylaw, I think it says.
I mean, well, I have, then, if it's in, I have missed it.